Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're embarking on an absolutely fascinating typological detective story. We're going to uncover this hidden architectural blueprint layered right into the biblical texts, one that beautifully illustrates exactly how Mary fulfilled the Old Covenant. And this isn't just dusty ancient history. It completely changes how we read the entire Bible today. If you've ever wanted to look past those surface-level readings and actually see how these ancient scriptural threads seamlessly weave together to form a much greater picture, well, you are definitely in the right place.
So right out of the gate, we have to ask, what is the absolutely strongest textual bridge between the Old Testament and Mary? Because to really answer that, we can't just look at loose traditions or vague historical ideas today. No, we are looking for the most defensible, direct literary connections, the ones deliberately crafted by the original biblical authors themselves. We want to see the cold, hard evidence right there on the page.
All right, so here is our roadmap for how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the ultimate typological bridge. Second, we'll examine what the ark actually carried. Third, we'll dive into the textual pillars. Fourth, we'll look at some mind-blowing journey parallels. And finally, we'll tie it all together with fulfilling the Old Covenant.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the ultimate typological bridge.
Okay, this single concept completely reframes our entire thesis. Just think about that quote. If Mary is the ark, then she is, by definition, the container of the covenant. You see, this isn't merely some biological detail about Mary supplying a physical body for Jesus. No, this is about her being the literal, theological vessel of the covenant itself. A covenant fundamentally requires a container, right? And understanding Mary as that container, well, it changes how we read the entire narrative from start to finish.
Moving right along to Section 2, what the ark carried.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer precision of the inventory. According to Hebrews chapter 9, verse 4, the original ark, which, remember, was built out of acacia wood that doesn't rot and sheathed in incorruptible gold, contained 3 highly specific items. It held the tablets of the covenant, which represent the word of God. It held a golden jar of manna, representing the miraculous bread from heaven. And it held Aaron's rod that budded, which was the ultimate sign of the true priesthood. So, you have to ask yourself, is this just a massive coincidence? Think about it. The old ark carried the ancient symbols of the word, the bread, and the priesthood. But Mary's womb held the one person who explicitly, literally fulfills all 3 of these specific ancient symbols simultaneously. She bore the Word made flesh, the true bread of life who supersedes that old manna in the desert, and the great high priest. She literally carried the reality of all 3 of those ancient symbols in a single body.
All right, that brings us to Section 3, the textual pillars. Let's look at the actual linguistic evidence.
Because the biblical authors, they intentionally engineered this connection right down to the actual word level. Take this specific Greek verb episkiase, which means to overshadow. This is arguably our absolute strongest textual pillar. In Luke 1:35, the angel Gabriel tells Mary the power of the Most High will overshadow her. Now, in the Greek Old Testament, that exact same verb is used in Exodus 40:35 to describe the glory cloud that overshadowed the tabernacle where the original ark sat. Guys, this isn't an accident. It is a deliberate, highly engineered literary echo marking Mary as the new tabernacle where the divine glory comes to rest.
And honestly, it's a perfect theological upgrade. Think about the original ark. It had a lid called the mercy seat, or hilasterion in Greek, where atonement blood was sprinkled. But fast forward to Romans 3:25, and Paul explicitly calls Christ the hilasterion, the actual mercy seat. So if Christ is the new mercy seat, then the body bearing that mercy seat is Mary. Just as the old mercy seat sat right on top of the ark, Mary bears the one who is the mercy seat. Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, parallels in the journey. This part is mind-blowing. Just listen to how this builds across the 2 texts. Look at this stacked precision. Both the ark and Mary go up to the hill country of Judah. King David asks, "How can the ark of the Lord come to me?" While Elizabeth asks, "Why is it that the mother of my Lord should come to me?" David literally leaps before the ark. John the Baptist leaps in the womb. The ark is brought up with shouting. Elizabeth cries out with a loud voice. And finally, the ark stays 3 months in Obed-Edom's house, while Mary stays about 3 months with Elizabeth.
When we look at these 5 points of contact, the cumulative effect is just undeniable. I mean, sure, any single point of contact on its own, you could say, it might just be a suggestive coincidence. But all 5 of them stacked together like that reveals a stunning, incredibly deliberate literary architecture by Luke. He is clearly going out of his way to pattern Mary's journey to exactly match the historical journey of the Ark of the Covenant.
And finally, Section 5, fulfilling the Old Covenant. Let's draw our theological conclusions. It's important to be transparent and really analytical about this evidence. Let's walk down the confidence ladder to see exactly how these connections rank. The overshadowing echo between Luke and Exodus, that is textually strong. It's an identical verb. It's a completely clear allusion. The 5-point journey parallels and the mercy seat connection, those are textually arguable, meaning they rely on cumulative evidence and strong inferences drawn directly from the text itself. And finally, viewing Mary as the ark as a completely settled identification falls more into a patristic or traditional inference, meaning it is extremely strong typologically, even if it's never stated in one blunt literal sentence in the text.
But we actually do get something incredibly close to a direct statement over in the book of Revelation. The trick here is you have to read straight across the chapter breaks. Actually, scratch that. Chapter breaks weren't even in the original text. They were added way later in the medieval period. So read it straight through. At the very end of Revelation 11, John says God's temple in heaven was opened, and the ark of his covenant was seen within. And then literally in the very next breath, what we now call the beginning of chapter 12, John points us to the heavenly ark and immediately introduces the image of a woman clothed with the sun.
So, bringing it all together, the absolutely crucial point is this. The Old Covenant's container was a gold-sheathed box of incorruptible wood holding the ancient symbols of word, bread, and priesthood. The New Covenant's container is a woman holding the word, bread, and priest fused together in one flesh. Mary doesn't merely supply a physical body for the narrative. She serves as the living vessel of the New Covenant itself, totally fulfilling the typology of the Old Covenant.
Seeing how meticulously these typological layers are woven together, it fundamentally changes how we read these texts, doesn't it? It shows us an intensely, brilliantly interconnected narrative. So it leaves us with a pretty massive question. If Mary perfectly fulfills the ancient pattern of the ark, what other hidden architectural blueprints are waiting to be discovered in the text? Keep analyzing, keep looking closely, and never stop learning.